Well, talking about that infrastructure plan and more is Congresswoman Cammack. She represents the Sunshine State's 3rd congressional district. She serves on the lone Florida Republican on the House Agriculture Committee and on the Homeland Security Committee as the lead Republican on the Subcommittee for Emergency Preparedness, Response, and Recovery. She's also the youngest Republican woman in the 117th Congress. She tweets at Rep. Cat Cammack. Congresswoman, thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning. How are you doing, Elise?
I'm doing good. Let's talk a little bit about this $3.5 trillion soft infrastructure bill. Some of our guests have been calling it a social safety net. Is there a number that you would support on this bill?
No. I've been through 2 markups now here in the last 4 or 5 days in my respective committees. Once the reconciliation bill passed, it gets sent to the committees with instructions of what accounts they want to plus up under the Biden plan. And there has been 0 Republican input. We have introduced hundreds of amendments to try to redirect and tackle some of the spending, really focus it on true infrastructure. Not a single Republican amendment has been adopted. It has been fought every step of the way. And I'll give you a great example. Last week on Friday, I had about an 11-hour committee hearing in agriculture. It's a $90 billion share for the Agriculture Committee. Not a single cent went to actual farm programs or infrastructure, anything dealing with research and development to try to mechanize harvesting, to help address labor challenges, support farmers and ranchers, which of course are the backbone of our country. They provide our food supply, and as we all know, food security is national security. And every single red cent went to SNAP and to nutritional programs instead of the actual producers that are making the food. So it's increasingly dangerous for us because it makes us reliant on an overseas food supply like Mexico or Central America. And that's very disheartening. This entire process really has been a sham. I was in a Homeland Security hearing yesterday going through the markup. Not a single Republican amendment was adopted. And these were good amendments, talking about ways we can bolster cybersecurity, bolster and reinforce our cyber infrastructure, talking about infrastructure on our southwest border. Not a single amendment in that way was adopted. This is just really Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden's wish list of the Green New Deal and a socialist agenda with little to no, and in my case, I've seen none of the Republican input. So it's a sham, and it's really a shame.
If some of the moderates on the Democratic side, like Joe Manchin, were able to kind of bring some of your concerns to the table, is there room for negotiation?
Not at that price point. I think $3.5 trillion on top of the $1.9 trillion in American Rescue dollars and the $1.2 trillion infrastructure on top of the $1.3 trillion for normal appropriations. It's absurd. We are spending money that we just don't have. In fact, we're spending our kids and our grandkids' money. And, I think at the end of the day, Americans, they want us to come together. But when you have Speaker Pelosi and Chuck Schumer who are doing anything and everything they can to make sure that this is their way or no way, there's very little room for debate or argument. And so I just don't think that there's going to be a whole lot of forward-moving progress on that. And we just quite simply can't afford it. We're already in hyperinflation. We're seeing prices that we haven't seen in over 50 years. Everything is up. Our supply chain is completely out of whack. We've got to get back to the basics and really stop spending money that we just simply do not have.
Mm-hmm. Congresswoman, let's talk about vaccine mandates. You've been very strong in terms of you want to, stop vaccine mandates. Talk to us about why you're opposed to the mandate.
Well, really, it's just anti-American. these mandates are very dangerous, and they start us down a very slippery slope, in my opinion. I don't think anyone is anti-vaccine. That's not what this whole debacle that we're in the middle of right now is about. It's about being anti-mandate. What authority does the United States government or a city government or a county government have to tell an individual that they will take a medication or inject themselves with a vaccine? That's ridiculous. No politician, no bureaucrat should have the authority and doesn't have the authority to tell an individual what they can and cannot do. And that's really a conversation that should be left to that individual, their family, and their doctor. But that's not happening right now. Instead, we're seeing in my hometown, for example, if you are a city employee, if you are a police officer, if you are a firefighter, if you are a utility worker, you are being told that you will get the vaccine and you will do it or you will be fired. Now, I'm the wife of a first responder.
Isn't it, Congressman, let me interrupt a bit. Isn't it that you will have the vaccine or you'll have to submit to weekly testing?
Nope. In my hometown of Gainesville, Florida, the city commission has said that the vaccine is the only option that people have to keep their jobs. There is no option to test on a weekly or every other day basis. They have said that is not something that they will move forward with. So it is, you have to get the vaccine or you are fired by the end of this month. And that's why Governor DeSantis and we just actually had a press conference on Monday of this week, standing firm with the city employees that are being faced with this ridiculous choice. My husband's a firefighter, has been for the last 13 years.
I asked you about that. Your husband's a firefighter, a paramedic, a SWAT medic. And so that's why I was kind of curious as to why it's not, you're not saying it's the vaccine itself. You're saying it's the being forced to do it.
Absolutely. We have these elected officials at the city commission level who are not doctors. They have no medical background, and they want to make health decisions, personal health decisions for my husband that could have tremendous impacts for our family. Quite frankly, it's none of their damn business what the status of my husband is, whether he is or isn't vaccinated. And I think that's ultimately where people are starting to step back and say, listen, why is this the government's business? Do we have HIPAA for a reason or not? Is it my employer's business to know my entire medical history? I think when we empower people to make the best decisions possible by putting all of the information on the table and saying, listen, we encourage you to do this. We'll incentivize you to do this. But the minute you mandate it, I think there's something very dangerous about that. I think Americans in general, we're very independent and we don't like to be forced to do things. And with the mandates, you're seeing a resistance to engaging in the debate about the science, because really what's playing out with the mandates, it's not actual science, it's political science. It's actually counterproductive to what they're trying to do. I saw Jen Psaki the other day mention to a reporter that she didn't believe that President Trump deserved credit for Operation Warp Speed, because when they inherited the White House, they had a vaccine readily available. And she said, no, I don't believe he deserves credit. If the mission of the White House and this administration was to get as many people vaccinated as possible, why wouldn't they give credit? Why wouldn't they say, absolutely, we think that was a great thing. We were able to inherit a readily available vaccine. And instead, they made it about politics. So that's why I think a lot of people are starting to wake up and say, there's a lot of double standards here. The Biden administration says everyone has to get it if you're a federal employee, except if you're a postal worker or if you're a member of Congress. This rules for thee but not for me mentality has to stop. It's no way to govern, no way to legislate, and that's why we're going to fight it tooth and nail every step of the way.
Congresswoman Kat Cammack of Florida's 3rd Congressional District, also the youngest woman in the Congress. Find her on Twitter at Rep. Kat Cammack. Congresswoman, thank you so much for joining the show.
Thank you, Elise. Have a great day.
You too.